Good evening. My name is Harshingla and I am from Software Engineering X2 batch. In this task, I implemented inheritance and polymorphism in my banking system. I will explain their advantages and how can we add a new transaction type. So let's start with inheritance. Inheritance means one class can take properties and methods from another class. In my program, I created a base class called transaction. Then I created child classes like deposit, withdraw, and transfer. All these classes inherit from the transaction class. So instead of writing the same code again and again, I reuse the common code from the transaction class. Advantages of inheritance. There are a lot of advantages that which are I don't need to write common logic multiple times. If I change something in the transaction class, it automatically applies to all child classes. Then my program becomes more organized and easy to understand. So let's go to polymorphism. Polymorphism means one method can work in different ways depending on the object. In my bank class, I use a list of transaction type. In- So I can store deposit transaction, withdraw transaction, transfer transaction. Even though they are different types, they are treated as a transaction. Advantages of polymorphism. One method can handle different types of transaction. There is less code duplication. I don't need separate methods for each transaction, and I can add new transaction types without changing much code. In my program, I have used one method called execute transaction that takes a transaction object. Since all transaction inherit from transaction, this method can accept any type of transaction, which are deposit, withdraw, or transfer without changing any the method. So, in the feedback, you asked how can I add new transaction type. If I want to add a new transaction type, like for example interest transaction, first I will create a new class that inherits from transaction. Then I will override method like execute, rollback, print. So I don't need to change the bank class much because it already works with transaction type. So the new transaction will automatically work with execute transaction, transaction history, or rollback. So at the end, inheritance helps in code, reuse, and better structure, and polymorphism helps in handling multiple transaction types using one method. Also, adding new transaction types become very easy in this design. Thank you.